Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, but isn't that how we always start? Anyhow, welcome aboard. Bridge MCP, free speech, one for the show. Thank you, Bridge, as usual. One for the show. She believes in free speech. It's free speech. You got, okay, let's go ahead and put that up while we bring our introduction and invite everybody out. All right, folks, here we go. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. Alistair Waters, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnan, welcome aboard. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Lee Grant, welcome aboard. We also have in the house, I think I called Alistair. Whoa, Mr. Rudnan. I should roll my R's for your Rudnan, especially for this one, Rudnan. So I got bumped by a car earlier today. Car ran into the crosswalk, knocked me down, sore leg, couple of scratches and bruises. Ambulance checked me out. We'll be fine in a few days. I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad that you were probably aware that something was coming down the pike. Well, our brother is okay, folks. Our brother got knocked down by a car, but he's okay. And in the house, we're welcoming as well Eric Hayes. How you doing, Eric? Great to see everybody in the house. Let's see, I'm gonna lie down. I hear you, man. I hear you. Lie down and just have the stuff in the ear. Listen to us and we got you. We got you. We got you. All right, let's see what we got here. Alistair Waters says, feel better soon, Michael. You know we need you around. We like all those things that you normally post. Bree says, hey all, wind chill as low as 24 below zero. Winds are 15 to 25 miles per hour with just up to 50 miles per hour expected. Snow falling and hitting the ground as ice. Yikes. At least our cold, we were very cold. This morning, I woke up at 16 degrees. You know, it's funny because I was talking to Ashley and I told her, hey, guess what? We are actually here in Houston, we are actually colder. Check this out. We were colder than Washington, D.C. See, I spent all this time with her in D.C. and I couldn't handle the cold. And we were talking about when we had the snowstorm there in D.C., the temperatures are, I don't know, about 20 degrees or so. Look at Houston this morning. I got this at, I guess, about 8 o'clock or so, somewhere around there. It was 18 degrees, but it started out this morning at 16 degrees. I was up until, I think, almost 3 o'clock, making sure, and I went through to make sure every pipe in the house had flow, to make sure that, you know, the water was flowing. I didn't want to take a chance, and because the rule of thumb is if you're at 20 degrees and below, if your pipes are unmoved for 6 hours, they get frozen. And you know, in Houston, a lot of us have copper pipes. So I made sure and kept that water, just turned it on till I got the warm water in, turned it off, just to make sure that I completed all the flow. But that's what our temperature looked like today, brothers and sisters. That's not Houston. I don't know where that was, folks. I have no idea, but that's what our temperature was this morning. Anyhow, Bridge says, yeah, Alistair, yes, it was cold here. Absolutely so. Bridge says, the IRS used to be a guard dog. Republicans neutered it. That's why Biden is seeking $80 billion to audit America's top earners. Taxpayers and politicians are forever complaining about the rich people taking advantage of loopholes in the tax code, but the IRS, America's most beloved government agency, doesn't view things such as carried interest or the special tax breaks of offshore insurers which hedge funds parlayed into an elaborate tax avoidance scheme as loopholes. They saw the law is the law, an agency spokesman told me recently, and subject to interpretation. If a family or company is audited and found in violation, it can settle up, protest to an IRS appeals board, or take the agency to tax court, a little-known venue where the white shoe lawyers for America's dynasties ply their trade. If the well-heeled taxpayer loses their case, they can appeal. If they win, they may well stand to save millions of dollars or billions, and often they win. See? Rigged, right? Bridge MCP also says, Alistair says, thankfully nothing frozen fallen from the sky. I agree. Bridge also says, Congress passed nearly $1.7 trillion government funding bill Friday, sending a package to President Biden, but he won't sign it. He signed a short-term thing just a few minutes ago. The House voted 225 to 201 on the bill Friday afternoon. The Senate passed a measure on Thursday by a bipartisan vote of 68 to 29. Wow, that's a veto-proof majority. But with prior deadline of midnight Friday to fund the government, the Senate made sure to have a stopgap measure approved, which funds the government through December 30th because it will take time for the bill to make its way to Biden's desk. This one is one of the most significant appropriation packages we have done in a very long time, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said on the Senate floor Thursday afternoon regarding the omnibus bill. The range of people it helps is large indeed. After a lot of hard work and compromise, the Senate is funding the government with an aggressive investment in American families, workers, and national defense. The bill funds the military and government agencies through September 30th, 2023. It includes pay raises for service members and government workers, nearly $40 billion in emergency aid for areas struck by public disasters, and over $44 billion in aid to Ukraine. I want to stop right there. When you see $44 billion for Ukraine, divide 44 by 1.7. Or I could say, let me do that calculation real quick because my mind isn't like it used to be where I could do all this stuff off the fly of my head. Where is my calculator? It better be found. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Divide 44 into 170. Okay? Oh, that's wrong. That's 44 into, let's see, 44 billion into 1700 billion. That's what it is. 44 billion. There's a reason to this madness here. 44 divided by 170. Caray, ¿qué pasó? 0, 0. Equal. All right. What I want you guys to realize this, okay? We are giving Ukraine 2.6% of our budget. I want you to digest that because that's a huge number. 2.6% of our budget is going to Ukraine. Jackson, Mississippi needs $1 billion to clean up its entire water system and bring it up to standards. Michigan, the town in Michigan, I can't remember, that have lead in their pipes, just need a few $100 million to fix their pipes. We can't get that. I am not trying to say don't give Ukraine supposedly to maintain peace. But by gosh, when we have an American city or several American cities like Flint, Michigan, like, thank you, Alistair Waters, Flint, Michigan, like Jackson, Mississippi, are going through dire straits. We can't find the money. But giving the money to the military industrial complex, oh, not a problem. Let's look at something else here as well. The military budget was $858 billion plus Ukraine is $44 billion. That turns out to be $902 billion into the military. I want you guys to understand that. That is more than half of our $1.7 trillion budget that goes between now and September 30th. In other words, a 10-month, is that 10 month? 9-month budget. And we are giving away more than half of that budget is going for military stuff. Well, some of it is going to give them a pay raise, of course, and that we want to occur. But to buy jets, the F-35 that doesn't really work well, to buy all these things, but we can't take a few $1 billion out to give child care, health care, or any of these things. And we have to beg for that $900 billion that goes to defense, and then only $800 billion, less than half of it, for all the other expenses that we have in this country. Folks, if you can't see that we've been taken to the cleaners by the military-industrial complex, how can we see? How can you spend most of your money on defense when there ain't no war? Somebody's getting over. And the numbers are out there. They fail their audit every single time. Folks, please. We have to stop this. All right, let's continue. I put your free speech stuff out there, Bridge MCP. Michael says, I'm going to lie down. Go lie down, Michael. I hope you are able to listen, at least listen to us. So sorry, Michael Rudnan. City life is true. Eric K. says, court course on Texas Power Grid. We're paying a lot of money for uncertainty. I have to read that later. You should have put a little snippet in there, my friend. Not a victim, but a victor and creator, even against all odds, as this person does more with just 2 arms. Again, you need to put more. Egberto Willis, please read the free speech image. Yes, ma'am. I will. Public service announcement. The right to free speech means the government can't arrest you for what you say. It doesn't mean that anyone else has to listen to your bullshit or host you while you share it. The First Amendment doesn't shield you from criticism or consequences. If you're yelled at, boycotted, have your show canceled, or get banned from an internet community, your free speech rights aren't being violated. It's just that the people listening think you are an I imagine that was supposed to be an a-hole, and they're showing you the door. Thank you very much for that. All right. Continuing, we've got Eric Hayes says, BS, the IRS needs system processing updates, not more agents to go after normal people. You will see. Why did they lower the transaction reporting from 10,000 to 600? Why not? If we have all the technology to prevent cheating, of course. Open your eyes. The moves are tied together and they aren't. What are they trying to do? Please tell me. All they're trying to do is, look, the government passed what the tax rates are going to be. You should have no problem in agencies reporting your transactions. I don't cheat, even when I made a whole bunch with my company. I wasn't always out there trying to find the best tax. I tell you what happened. I'll tell you a quick story about taxes. In 2000, when did I move here? I moved here in 97. And that was my second best year. I think 98 was my best year. Made a ton of money in 98. And I went to an accountant because I do my own taxes. I went to an accountant, and the accountant started telling me all these different ways that I could use insurance companies and all this kind of stuff to hide the money. And I said, again, I'm like, why would I want to do that? She says, well, that way you can keep more of the money. I said, but I made the money. I mean, isn't it? It's proportional, man. I made the money. I don't mind paying the taxes on the money. If I'm paying a lot more taxes, it meant I made a lot more money. Why would I want to stiff anybody from the money? And she wasn't too happy with me. I guess she wanted to get all these other instruments for me to sign up to hide money at that time. And I said, nah, you know. Of course, now that I don't have any of it, it would have been nice to have hidden some of the money. No, actually, no, that's not true at all. I believe we pay our fair share in taxes. If you make a lot of money, you pay a lot in taxes and you give away a lot of your money. When I made a lot of money, I gave a hell of a lot of money to charity, a ton. Now that I don't make anything per se, well, that has to go out for now. One of these days, my books may take off. Anyhow, Eric Hayes says, all BS. Oh, and Egberto, no, Eric. Again, you have to get away from the selfishness. You have to get away from the lack of empathy. The Republicans push that very evil, no compassion, no empathy, not seeing through other people's eyes. We got to get away from that. Start looking through other people's eyes. Start trying to be more, what's the word? Try to be a bit more concerned about your fellow man or woman, that is. Please. It's not that difficult. How does it feel to be always just pissed off at the people you shouldn't be pissed off at? If you want to be pissed off at folk, be pissed off at the plutocracy. They're the ones that's screwing you. They're the ones that taking your money. First fix your own, then others. Perfectamente, corazón. Michael says, for 2016, we still ain't fixed our water supply as progressives keep talking about infrastructure spending. Thousands of neighborhoods across the country have higher lead poisoning rates than Flint, Michigan. Yeah, I read that somewhere. According to Reuters investigation published today, the Centers for Disease Control defines high lead content as 5 micrograms per deciliter and 2.5% of children under 6. Elevated rates nationwide. That's not good at all. Let me see if our stuff fired. Yep, it looks like our stuff fired fine. All right. Continuing, Eric Hayes says 400 million to Jordan, 44 billion to Ukraine. That is not our government. Wake up. It is pork. Fund as necessary, and that excuses is, wow, you know what? So you agree with us that we should do more money for infrastructure, eh? Wow. Run this Egberto, you start talking about lead in the water, gotta stand up. Yep, we gotta do that. Yes, sir. Lead in the water. Oh, whoa, Eric Hayes, that's too long, man. Let's see, Maywood says, reply to Breach MCP. Remember, we have only a week before a bunch of crazy over-the-top mega Republicans take control of the House, and they have already threatened to shut down the government, so they have to do much they can now to prevent a total disaster later. But there's a total disaster that's waiting because they didn't get done, and that is the increase in the debt ceiling. And if the debt ceiling doesn't get increased, brothers and sisters, we run the risk of all kinds of stuff again. I mean, the Republicans are just very poor stewards of the people's money. They've always been. They talk a good game, but they've always run up deficits. It started, I mean, the big, humongous deficit started with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan got a $40 billion deficit, and he threw it through the roof. You know, it's crazy. But they always talk about fiscal responsibility. And the thing about it is, when you look at the charts, the economy does a whole lot better, substantially better, under Democrats than under Republicans. That's just the fact. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the numbers. They're there for everybody to see. And it bothers me, it bugs me that too often people don't go out there and see that. All right, before I continue reading, I think it's about that time for me to play the program that we have scheduled for today, which is Morris Pearl. Morris Pearl is a friend of mine. He is also the chairman of the Patriotic Millionaires. I think you're going to like that, and let's go ahead and play him, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we have the honor of speaking to Morris Pearl. Who's Morris Pearl? Morris Pearl currently serves as chair of the Patriotic Millionaires, a group of hundreds of high net worth Americans who are committed to make all Americans, including themselves, better off by building a more prosperous, stable, and inclusive nation. The group focuses on promoting public policy solutions that encourage political equality, guaranteeing a sustained wage for working Americans and ensure that millionaires, billionaires, and corporations pay their fair share of taxes. Senor Morris Pearl, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today, sir?
Great to be in your show. Thank you. Doing well.
Well, look, this is probably the third time that I've spoken to you, and each time it seems to have something to do with legislation that once again didn't take the average middle class and poor American into account. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that press release that you sent out right after you realized what was going to be in the this large omnibus bill that Congress is about to put forth?
Sure. The part that I was talking about is the part where they adjust the rules about IRAs, individual retirement accounts, or the same idea for 401k accounts. And many people have an account. Roughly half of working people in America have a retirement account. That's great. We encourage it. They made it easier to sign up. That's great too. All for it. But they changed a key rule. The basic idea is that if you put money into your IRA or 401k account, you don't have to pay taxes on that money. So it's to encourage people to save. And then later, after you're retired, you take the money out and you pay taxes then at possibly a lower tax rate because you're retired. And, that's okay. That sounds good. And I've saved, I just, as soon as it was possible, back in the 1980s, I put the maximum I could into my IRA and 401k every single paycheck. And that was great. And I was making enough money. I could afford to do that. I'd still had enough to live on. And the rule was when you were 70 or 71, you had to start taking the money out and pay taxes on it. They've changed it to make it 3 years later. So instead of 71, it'll be, I guess, 74. That makes a huge difference. I'll have 3 more years, assuming I live that long, God willing, of tax-free compounding of that money. That essentially is going to make my now adult children richer by hundreds of thousands of dollars under reasonable assumptions. Of course, I could, live to the age of 150 and spend it all. But assuming I don't, my children, who are doing great, by the way, they both have fine jobs and careers and they're doing fine, will have hundreds of thousands of more dollars, not because of anything I do or they do, just because of this change in the law about how rich people who saved up a lot of money for their retirement don't have to pay as much taxes as they used to. So it's a tax break, but this tax break, they say it's for middle class people. It's only for people of enough money they don't need to use their retirement accounts even after they're 70 years old. Most people who save for their retirement actually need to use the savings when they're retired. It's only the very rich people who will have enough money that even after they're retired in their 70s don't need to spend their retirement savings. And those are the people being helped by this crazy change to the law. So that's why I thought it was kind of ridiculous that Congress is in Washington there passing a change to the law essentially to reduce taxes for rich people. And we think that's going to make inequality even worse. The people who are already rich are going to be that little bit more rich because of this. And it's not going to do anything for the vast majority of Americans who actually have a retirement account in order to spend money when they're retired. So that's the basic gist of what I wrote about. Did I cover everything, Roberto?
Yes, actually, let me tell you, in a very concise manner, you sent out a press release that I loved, and you said, "I'm tired of tax cuts for the rich being sold as help for the poor." That first sentence said it all. I am tired of tax cuts for the rich being sold as help for the poor. The retirement changes in the omnibus package overwhelmingly benefit wealthy people like me while doing almost nothing for those who truly struggle to save for retirement. This bill does not make it easier for workers to save for retirement. It just makes it easier for high income earners to shelter more of their earnings for taxes. I mean, that's all I
Sure.
had to read. When I got the release, that's all I had to see, and it was like, my God, he continues to get it.
It's kind of sad that so many people are just looking for ways to save on taxes. We actually, one of our mottos is tax the rich, because we think the rich people should pay at least the same percentage of their income in taxes as people like you who get a paycheck and with tax deduct from that every single month. I remember we looked back at commercials they made in World War II when
Mhm.
they first started a lot of income taxes. They were talking about how patriotic it is to pay taxes. They made a video, a music video that said, "Oh, I paid for this plane just like Rockefeller did," with a guy, walking in front of a military airplane. And back then, it was considered cool to pay taxes. It was the patriotic thing to do. People were proud to be helping to support their country, their nation, their people doing things collectively. And now, we had a president 6 years ago elected who said, "Oh, only stupid people pay taxes." And
It makes
I
no
don't know,
sense.
things have changed.
Now, let me ask you this, because you said something that was prescient. You said you should at least pay what the percentage that the average American is paying anyhow. Of course, I think it's more. Now, we may differ in what we said, but your version of rich, in your case, you built a store. Tell us a little bit about what you've done before I get into what I want to say.
And really, my father, and family owned a bunch of clothing stores in upstate New York. They were the people that were buying the stuff, with it from, when and I remember in Death of a Salesman. So, and I spent most of my career in the banking area. Actually, I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania back in '82, and I spent most of my career in finance since the mid '80s until I retired about 10 years ago to do basically policy advocacy full time now. I've been doing this full time for about 8 years. And it's just ridiculous that my tax rates, since I make my money from investments,
Mm-hmm.
are 0, 15, and 20%.
Right.
I pay 0 up to almost $100,000 a year. I'm married. I pay 15% to almost $500,000 a year. And then I pay 20% if I need to more than that. And even that is only if I have what they call a realized gains.
Right. Meaning
I
you have
can
had to
withdraw,
sold the stock and made the gains on it.
yeah, and I can withdraw tons of money from my brokerage accounts without having any realized gains. So my effective tax rate on, if you say if you think of money, the money I'm able to spend is how much money I make. I mean, it's in low single digits, if anything. And it's just not right that all the burden of paying for the country, our nation, is put on the people who are working. And the people who don't work, like me, are not being charged any reasonable semblance of a fair share.
It's interesting because yesterday I had a caller to my KPFT 90.1 FM radio show, and he said, "Well, the IRS, if for all the rich people, because I told them that I was likely going to be speaking to you, the Patriotic Millionaires, and he heard of them, and he said, 'Oh, those Patriotic Millionaires, they're just a bunch of hypocrites. They don't give anything or whatever.' And by the way, the IRS has an address. If they want, they can just send a check." I had to explain to him that we have to look at things from a systemic nature. A Morris Pearl can't do it all by himself. It has to be a collective. It has to be everyone engaged in a system of how this operates. And I try to explain that to him. Now, it's what is it going to take for that message? I mean, I have a theory, and I don't know. You're the rich guy here. I have a theory that there are rich folk that work their butt off doing something positive for society. And then there are those who I don't think you can consider anything other than psychopath. If you had $10 billion, Morris, what could you possibly do? Why would you possibly want to gorge more, even though you know that commensurate with what you're producing in society isn't generating that?
You know what I think it is? It's the people who get rich at that level,
Hmm.
billions of dollars, are people who just have such a drive to get rich that that's the thing that gives them purpose and meaning in their life. The same way you might know someone who's a, expert figure skater, and she's just driven to get that gold medal. The only, and everyone who gets a gold medal in figure skating is like that. And the person becomes a billionaire, well, is somebody who's either has that kind of drive and so isn't going to change once they become a billionaire. They're going to continue that drive, or more likely is someone whose grandfather or father had that kind of drive. What I usually say to people like that is that, like, imagine we were running a country club, like a fancy golf club,
Hmm.
and I wanted to have the dining room redecorated. And at the annual meeting, I stood up and gave a speech about how we should, you know, have more money to redecorate the dining room and make it fancier. And we'd have a vote, and either the people would vote to increase the dues and have money to redecorate the dining room, or they wouldn't. But you wouldn't say, oh, these few people who want to redecorate it, they should pay all the money, and the rest of us should pay nothing. That wouldn't work. No one would want to be in a club that works that way. You
Exactly.
have to have decisions made by a democratic process with voting, not by a process of the few rich people deciding how everything should be done. And that's why we have to have decisions made of how much money we should spend on whether it's redecorating the dining room or building schools and roads and bridges and hospitals and all the stuff we need. Those decisions should be made by elected representatives, and then the bill should be divided among all the people according to how much money they make.
Makes sense to
That's the
me.
democratic process.
Makes sense to me. Now, one last question before I go into the other subject, because this always bothers me, right? The guy used Oprah, one of the callers used Oprah Winfrey as an example of, Oprah Winfrey worth $5 billion or something, right? And I explained to him, like, first of all, I love Oprah Winfrey and I'm happy that she owns $5 billion. But I said that's a quirk within our economic system. I kind of explained that Oprah made her money because she could promote herself on mediums created by hundreds of thousands of engineers, intellects, and others. In other words, a microphone was invented, a camera was invented. All these other things were invented by people who got paid once. And with people who got paid once, she's able to monopolize on using that medium to put her existence out there. It seems to me like there should be some feeling of I need to give back to a society that created these engineers and scientists who built this medium that I can excel on, don't you think?
Well, A, yes, I agree with you. And I mean, I don't know Oprah personally, and I'm fine with her being a billionaire. I mean, she's done a great job. We've looked through our records. I mean, the records like the Forbes and Fortune published and stuff like that. She's one of three people that in the world who I could say are truly self-made billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling and George Soros, the other two. Every single other person on the list, not that I checked every billionaire in the whole
Right,
world,
I get it. But in
but
aggregate,
all of the ones near the top, and most of them, are all people who started out far richer than almost all Americans did. Even, you know, the people who started Facebook and Apple started out having a lot more money than most people did and having that ability of a huge head start. So I think that everybody is, a lot of what you are is not because of how hard you work or how smart you are or some kind of value you have. A lot of it is where you start off in life. I had the good fortune of starting off in life with, family who owned a business and they could afford to send me to the finest university in the country. And without me having to even think about how much it cost. And that gave me a huge advantage. My father and mother had a loan from that was guaranteed by the government, the Veterans Administration, at a time when that was simply not legal for Black people. It had to be in a stable neighborhood, and stable was defined as racially homogeneous. So I had huge advantages that were not available to a lot of other people. And me, and now my kids, and now my granddaughter are doing better, at least financially, and in a lot of ways, than a typical American because of these small things that happened decades before they were born. And that's why we need to change our policies so that rich people pay at least the same tax rates, if not more, as people like you who have money deducted from your paycheck every single week.
Let me tell you, it's great that you're doing this work. I think more people who have the money, in other words, the rich folks, have to go out there and do it. And like I said, I think too many of them are psychopaths. It's good to see that we have those out there who are willing to just speak the truth.
Thank you, Edward.
That's when. Now, before we go here, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what kind of projects you're working on now, because you always seem to have something new going.
Sure. One thing we're doing, we're running a sort of a long-term focus group in a small town in North Carolina, 5,000 person town. We have a few dozen people. I'm actually going to go see them personally in January, but we've been sending staff people like every couple of weeks for a while to meet with this group of people and talk to them about these exact issues and see what, if we can explain to them how their voting connects with their economic well-being and sort of make that connection for them. And this is a place that's voted for politicians who are promoting policies for more inequality and making the rich richer and their poor poorer. So we're going to go to a town filled with thousands of people who are, let's say, financially challenged in many cases, and we're going to see if we can talk to them and explain these things to them and see if they're going to think about how their voting connects with the economic policies that affect their lives.
Now, how's
So
that
that's part of
going?
our plan.
How's it going right now? I know you should have some incremental data to kind of support if you think that the economic message is starting to go against the ideological message.
Well, the people that are on our staff have been going there are encouraged. We're getting a lot of people to show up. Of course, we give them some food to eat when they show up, but a lot of people are showing up, and a lot of people seem to be very enthusiastic about our message. I'm going to go personally in the middle of January, and I'll report back to you next time we talk.
That would be great. It's amazing because what you're doing in that microcosm there, I live in Kingwood, Texas, a very red area where people continue to vote against their interests. And that is, how you go and you're feeding folks as you entertain them and teach them. That's what they do here as, as just a norm, what they always do. And it seems like those that are promoting the policies that you're talking about for a long time had not had the wherewithal to do that. So it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be an excellent move in starting to change these things. But you know what my last question's always going to be, and that is, what would
Sure.
you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Well, I think that the Patriotic Millionaires are continuing to do the work we've been doing. We have a staff of a bunch of young people who are like literally younger than my kids in many cases. And I'm just feeling encouraged to see the next generation. So I'd like, everyone to try to address the 20-something-year-olds and try to see what we can do to get more young people engaged and involved in not just in their own little world, but in what they can do to sort of change the course of our nation. So that's what's getting me encouraged.
Well, Morris Pearl, chair of the Patriotic Millionaires, thank you so kindly once again for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thanks, Egberto. Great to be in your show.
Anyhow, let me tell you, the guy's wealthy, have more money than he needs, and he with several hundred other people formed this group called the Patriotic Millionaires, and they're doing the right thing. They are doing the right thing. I know, Eric, I don't go interviewing folks and then going and say, could you go ahead and donate to Politics Done Right? People have to do that on their own volition. He probably doesn't. That probably hadn't even crossed his mind. That's just not how this stuff works. The way it works is you go out there and expect that the people who are watching you and supporting you and understand that you're trying to do a good job, that they support the program. I mean, even my conservatives here in this room here supports the program. So again, what can I say? That is just how it works. You don't go out there and, well, anyhow. So just an answer for you, Eric Hayes. And I noticed Eric got perturbed that the guy mentioned Soros, and he said three things. He said there are only 3 billionaires he knows who actually made it from scratch. What's so bad about saying that? If it's a fact, check it out. Check it out. Anyhow, why would I do that, Eric? No, I wouldn't. Anyhow, Bridge is, Carl Cox says, Morris and Egberto only want the mega rich to pay their fair share of taxes, something they haven't been doing since Reagan became president. Yeah, look, I don't remember if I wrote this in an article. Yeah, I think I wrote it in an article yesterday. Write so many articles, I forget what I write in particular articles. But there was a reason behind, you remember, your marginal tax rate could go as high as, I think, 92%. I don't have Hannity, I don't have a video for Hannity. All I have is the article. I'm going to talk about Hannity in a minute. But here's the thing. You can't, well, I'll talk about that another time. But the 90% marginal tax rate we are going to have to get back there. After a certain amount of money, your tax rate should be just about 90% or more. And the reason why is that's the only way math works. You don't earn, after you reach a certain level, you're not earning that money. That is just an anachronism within the capitalist system. And I wish more of us understood that. After a certain amount of money, you're not earning it. Anyhow, the other subject at hand that I wanted to talk about was about Sean Hannity. And I haven't done a video about it. In fact, I may do this here and turn this one into a video. Well, no, probably not, because I don't care too much about Brother Hannity at all. But here we go. Guys, like a lot of our conservatives are there believing what they hear on Fox News. And Fox News would look at them and lie to them continuously over and over again, and they just take it. But when these guys' lives are in danger now, when they have to go tell the truth, that is when it all comes out, like it did with Hannity. Hannity said, for news star Sean Hannity, one of the former President Donald Trump's strongest allies on the air and one of his closest advisors of it, admitted under oath that he never believed the lie that Trump was cheated out of a victory in 2020 presidential election by a voting tech company. He never believed it. That stands in contrast to what played out on some of Fox's biggest show, including Hannity's. On television, for Fox News hosts, stars and guests amplified and embraced such wild and false claims made by Trump. His campaign lawyer and surrogates presented them to millions of viewers. Hannity and a top Fox News executive who oversees time programs told a different story about Trump's false claims of fraud under oath and in front of attorneys during separate depositions in a $1.6 billion defamation suit. While the depositions happened in August, their statements emerged yesterday in a Delaware Superior Court hearing relating to a series of motions by the two sides of the case. Don't you guys feel like you've been had? Don't you feel like, oh my God, look at what these guys did to me? You should. You should feel like you've been taken to the cleaners, because Donald Trump collected a whole lot of money claiming, nearly $1 billion claiming, oh, you know what, they cheated me. And he just took you guys to the bank. Not $1 billion, I don't remember how much it was. but they kept taking you to the bank. Okay? They took you to the bank. If you want to be upset at somebody right now, I suggest that you write a letter to Fox News and ask them, why did they mislead you for so long? Ask them, why did they mislead you in such a manner that many people thought they had to go on January 6th to fight for the Fuhrer? Ask them. Don't be upset. Hannity said, I did not believe it for 1 second. Hannity testified according to an attorney for Colorado-based Dominion voting system who was offering it as a precise quote. Meade Cooper, Fox News executive vice president, confirmed under oath she never believes the lies about Dominion. The Dominion attorney, Stephen Shackelford Jr., also said. Tucker Carlson, he tried to squirm out of his deposition. Shackelford added and then alluded to Fox News stars' text from November and December 2020 when Judge Eric Davis cut Shackelford off. Those sworn interviews took place during what's called the discovery phase of the case in preparation for trial, which is scheduled for April. They lied to you, and they continue to lie to you, and you just ask them to do it for more. Jules Ray Winfield says the Donald Trumps of the world get the privilege of misrepresenting themselves, and they get to navigate this society without any consequences for their actions. Not this time. Hopefully, that'll be changing very soon. Like I said, Brother Ray, not this time. British MCP says Orange Man needs to be held accountable. It's all. I agree. Daniel Ledoux says, LOL, MSNBC lied to you for 6 years, 4 years fake Russian collusion, like 2 years. Look, we're talking about the lies about the election. It was a lie. Hannity confessed that it was a lie. The vice president of Fox News confessed that it was a lie. They knew that Donald Trump lost fair and square, and he didn't even lose by a little bit. He lost in a landslide. In fact, his first election, he lost by over 6,000 votes. Over 3 million, over 2.8 million votes. But he became the president because of a aberration in the Constitution of the United States of America. That's all. That's all. So all of you who sent Donald Trump money, all of you sent money, you know that you sent money to somebody who knew he was just he was just fleecing you. And you accepted it. And you continue to try to find a way because you're so embarrassed. Many are so embarrassed that they fell for the con, in as much as we on the progressive side have been telling you, don't. It's a con. That's who he is, a con. Troy Astro says, Agent Orange want to try to end democracy. His former administrators either quit or in jail. Yeah. One of the most corrupt presidencies that we've ever had. But that's it. Anyhow, that was that one subject, and I only have 8 minutes for the second subject. And the second subject was George Santos. It seems like the GOP success every time they have it is based on a lie. George Santos, Republican from New York. And again, this is what drives me crazy about the Democratic Party. How did their opposition research was not able to use all this information against this guy? How? How could their oppositional research not find this stuff out till a few days after the election? Actually, I think they had it. They were probably just derelict in their duty. He claimed he was a Jewish. His parents came over in Jewish. It turned out they were born in Brazil. He claimed he's gay. Turned out he was married to a woman. You know, talk about Republicans trying to use identity politics in a race that should have favored a Democrat to win and was successful. more successful than the Democrat that was running who attempted not to use any kind of identity politics. What does that tell you? What does it tell you? I don't know, you tell me. Michael Rodney says the three most anti-democratic facets of the government that needs to be checked: the electoral college instead of the popular vote, the Senate 2 seats regardless of population, and the Supreme Court, which have been activist judges who don't represent the popular will of the people. I agree 100%. Eric Hayes says, Egberto, you bring up 2020 all the time. Don't be getting mad when the investigation comes in January. I won't get mad at all. I want you guys to investigate. They're going to look like the clowns that they are. They will look like the clowns that they are because they're clowns. We will actually, it will be confirmed that they're clowns. Jules Ray says, 80 million misguided souls felt like the Donald Trump era should continue. Luckily, progressives bridged the gap that carried us to victory. Absolutely so. Daniel Lido says, so we have hard evidence of FBI colluding with Twitter to control information before an election, but Egberto is worried about Fox News. So this Egberto misplacing priorities, intentional malfeasance, or apathy? No, just the information that you have about the FBI and Twitter is just bogus. Look it up. Do a search. You'll find out it is bogus. Jules Way Rayfield, I truly believe it was the low turnout of progressives in 2016 that caused Hillary to lose out despite of handling off the primary elections. I agree with that. That is absolutely so. You take a look at what occurred in Philadelphia. You take a look at what occurred in Detroit and all these areas that should have had more performance, and you don't see it. Breed says Democrat Kathy Hochul edges out the Republican Lee Zeldin in New York governor race. Zeldin was being accused of fake ballots to get him elected. Yep. They're the ones who commit voter crime but always try to project. You know, the projection is like you look in the mirror to show the things that you do and you try to project it onto somebody else. Carl Cox of Daniela Doe says Fox News lies and you believe anything they say. I sure hope he does not, but what can I say? If he does, shame on him. Troy Astro says the Republicans are sinking in quicksand at the time I write. Yes, they are. Daniel Edo says real emails and correspondence is fake. No, it's not. But what was occurring is the interpretation of those emails, which is pretty much there. You can choose to misinterpret it if you want to. You can choose to misinterpret it if you want to, but you're not going to get anywhere. And just like their hearing is going to get absolutely nowhere. It's going to be a waste of our dollars, but let them go for it because we'll run on it in 2024. I want them to go ahead and have hearing after hearing after hearing as Americans starve, as Americans get in dire straits, and then we'll just run on it. We try to solve America's problem even in the minority, but we'll work on it. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Tom C. says, for all his high crimes and misdemeanors, Trump, the anti-Santa in the orange suit, deserves a big piece of coal in his Christmas stocking, a whole truckload. In fact, fossil fuel for fossil fuel. That is so funny. You should put that in one of your poems. And by the way, have you been logging into your WordPress and updating your calendar like you wanted to, Tom? If you're still having issues with it, maybe we need to work out a 15 minutes or 30 minutes schedule so that we can actually work on getting you up to speed on it and moving on from there, if that is what you want. All right, Eric Hayes says Clinton calling people deplorable was her problem as those rose up against her, and I think that was a mistake on her part. I don't think Hillary should have used that word deplorable because, I have a sister who's a Trumpist. She's not deplorable. She's just confused. That's all. And I talk to her. I plead with her. We have conversation. I love her. All right. Michael says, Daniel, don't check your source. In fact, check. Make sure you come correct or you will summarily be dismissed. Michael says also, Eric Hayes, Hillary Clinton wasn't wrong about a fourth of your conservatives. Exactly. Daniel Edo, I think Egberto has chosen to misinterpret. He knows that the FBI is on the side of the neo-Marxists, and that's a lie. FBI has always been law and order Republican. So he will excuse criminality. Egberto lives in a moral desert. Wow. I better get me some extra water since I'm in the moral desert. I need some water. All right, let's see what else we got here. That's good. That's good. Jules says, let me get that cover off. It was definitely a political misstep to call any voters deplorable, but that monitor is definitely not inaccurate when it comes to Republican leadership in government. I agree, in government. The Republican people, the rank and file, beautiful folk. I have many of them in the house here. Some of them are misrepresenting the facts, but that's why they're here, to get them corrected. All right? Let's see. Daniel Ledo, FBI screwed Clinton 2016. I remember well. They probably cost her the election. I find it ironic when people say otherwise, but hey, what can I say? We are near the end of the show. I want to ask everybody who has the wherewithal to please support us. It's coming to the end of the year, and I say this as honest as I can. I am several $1,000s in the red because of being probably the lousiest fundraiser. So those of you who have the wherewithal, I ask you to go to politicsdoneright.com/support. Remember, I don't take a salary. What I do is you guys support the program. That's how it goes. You guys support the program. politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support to find however you can support the program. You can also choose to give us support via PayPal. I'll be sending out a newsletter a little bit with asking for funding. And you can support us also by becoming a member of our Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Or you can go ahead and just click that join button, become a part of our posse. We would love to have you as a part of our posse. And I put all of that in the chat. Buy our books. politicsdoneright.com/books. Give it away. Enlighten other folks with our books. I trust me, you're going to get quite a bit out of it. And shop at our store. politicsdoneright.com/store. Once again, though, I'll put up the support button. Please support us in whatever fashion you can. I won't be talking to you until after Christmas, the day after Christmas. So I want to wish everybody a very, very happy holiday. I want you guys to go out there and have fun. I want you to be safe. Be safe. And I'll say, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa. What am I forgetting? And anything that I've forgotten. Whatever you celebrate, enjoy, be merry. And the end of the year is coming. Let's get prepared to start 2023 running. Let's start 2023 running. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.